All right, what is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Mets Weekly Podcast. We are live at this very moment on YouTube and on X to recap the Mets versus Marlins series, as well as all the latest news and rumors, all in Mets land. But before we get into that, I want to remind everyone to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel for new episodes of our show that will now be recorded following every single series of games during the regular season. For those of you watching or listening on playback, and you want to join the conversation in the future, make sure to turn on those post notifications to know when we go live. For those of you in the live chat right now, we love reading your comments, your questions, your concerns, all of that great stuff. If you feel like you're being ignored, you're not being ignored. We're just going to try and star as many as we can throughout the show and pull up as many as we can to keep the flow of the conversation going. Make sure to follow Mets Weekly on X and on TikTok for my co-host right here who's on the screen, Frank's instant post-game reactions after every regular season game. Those are titled the Mets Frankly Post Game. For our audio listeners, make sure to follow us on all your favorite listening platforms to not miss the audio version of new episodes that go up at 9 a.m. the following day. Also, make sure to give us a 5-star review. That would be greatly appreciated. So, without further ado, let's get into episode number 123. 123. That is the episode number. I don't have a joke for that. It was just something that I noticed. Anyways, Frank, you're here. We are here to recap a series win that felt like a series that was one of the rough ones to watch. Let's just say that. It was, like we say here on the bottom part of the screen and in the title, sloppy, 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 sloppy.
It's the Marlins, so a lot of times it is not pretty. That goes even for the best Mets teams, for the worst Mets teams. A lot of times when you're facing the Marlins, especially in Florida, a lot of weird things could happen, and we saw a whole lot of weirdness. But I hope that it's more so just these guys still getting their rhythm. I mean, it still felt like a spring training with the way a lot of these guys performed, and like you said, with the sloppiness, just not very crisp. Some players that we expect to make plays, not making them. So it's just that it's from players that you expect better from. So I'm not worried yet because it still is so early in the season. It is the 162. And a lot of times versus the Marlins, things don't look well. But there were some performers who did really well that make you feel a little better. Is that even though there was like a lot of sloppy things, a lot of things you didn't like, there still were enough good things to the point where you still win the series. Because even though it was a sloppy series, they could have lost it very easily. They were very close to losing this series. So the fact they're able to win it in the 162, that's what matters the most.
Yeah, again, I'm not here to pull my hair out and say that this is already the sky is falling. Yes, they're at 3-3. Could they have played better in these first 6 games? Absolutely. Things that we're going to point out today were obviously noticeable enough. And I think that, at some point it will eventually get better. Maybe there is some pieces that come up that, start to contribute and can be, guys that, can help them get over that hump right now. But right now, to be honest, I'd rather them start like this than end like this. I think we all can say that. I'm not panicking. But I will say it was a rough game, especially that third game was a rough game to watch. Let's just say that. And, I think we all go through those dog days of April. That has been a thing recently. This team really just kind of starts off slow. And we all know that there's 162 games to be played. And we know that this is going to be a long season. There's things that need to be adjusted. There are things that need to be addressed. But I think that as of right now, it's all really just about existing, staying in existence to where you can make that move in May or June. So again, these are just the first kinks of the season. I'm not panicking, but there were some things that were not great baseball. And I think that there were a lot of things out there that made you wonder, okay, is this team still in spring training? Because right now there's been a lot of things that we've seen on the field, just visually, not even just overall in processes, ways that, there is some sloppiness. And again, like you said, with the Marlins, there's never going to be a, satisfying win. It will always, end or start rough or whatever, because this is just what the Marlins do. The Marlins are just pests to the Mets. They have been since all existence, to be honest. I mean, I think once, they traded Piazza to us, they were just like, okay, we're gonna make this team's life a living hell, no matter what. And I will say they were doing this typical Marlins stuff, getting the infield hits that were hit 155 miles an hour into the ground, getting these little duck snorts and everything, doing the pest Marlins stuff that they do. That was annoying. And I think the problem is that we don't want to see a lot of this continue. We don't want to see this flood into a May 30th threshold that we had to do last year. Hopefully it's not. But again, there is still things that do need to be cleaned up. Brad coming in here saying, the defense was awful yesterday. It was, I mean, some of the miscues was really bad. The error total doesn't show the full story. It really doesn't. I will tell you right now, some defensive miscues, a lot of just kicking the ball around. I mean, just a lot of wide throws, just awful execution overall. And we all know that this team is capable of a lot more. Hopefully that, the kinks just get out of there, to start away. And then obviously we know that the Mets still are waiting for some guys to come back from injury, such as the pitching staff, things like that. But rough series to watch, let's just say that. And I think that they were lucky enough to get away with the series victory after the way that they played, because there was not much to hang your hat on as a whole for how they played as a team. But we will see how that carries on to with this day off. So it's whatever. Frank, is there anything else that you want to add just in general? Because I think that right now, we just want to get into what has happened so far in this season, which has been the Mets existing, I guess. That's basically just how they like to start things off, with a instant heart attack.
Yeah, I mean, also the effort. That's another thing that can't go unnoticed, too. I mean, we had the big one of Vientos now running out the ground ball, Carlos Mendoza and everyone having to speak to him. That's really something you don't want to see. I just feel that it's tough when a guy's not hustling, but it's even worse when the player's also not very fast. So it's like there's certain guys who like I say Acuna running at 80% is faster than Vientos at 100%. So Vientos running at like 70% is extra slow. So stuff like that definitely is very frustrating, especially when a guy is struggling offensively. And like you mentioned, the errors, but also the decision making too. Like, yes, you made a wide throw, but you also threw to the wrong spot of the diamond. You should have went to second and you're going home. Yeah. So it's also that too. It's like you're not making the plays correctly, but you're just not doing the right decision to begin with. So there definitely is some things that do need to be worked on by certain guys for sure. But like we said, it's still so early in the series, and you feel like by the time a lot of this is sets and done, a lot of these guys are going to be where they're supposed to as far as season averages and things like that. It's still early in the season, but now they finally get to come to New York. I mean, they haven't been in New York since October, so it's been a long time coming for the Mets to be back in Citi Field. So that's just going to be good to see them back in their home ballpark once again.
Yeah, I will be in attendance for Game 3 of this series, so that will be pretty fun. We all know who is lined up to pitch that game, so it should be, a game dedicated just to me. So anyways, as for this series, I do want to run down what did happen, but of course we can talk a little bit about what's been going on with Mark Vientos. A really rough week for him. It wasn't even just, just the Marlins series, but I think a lot of it just folded over to there. Obviously struggling at the plate. It seems like a lot of it translated over to the field. We saw him, of course, jogging down to first base, as to where like a half step he could have beat that thing out because of, the fielding error that was at third base, of course. The problem, I think, with this is just the concern of it just carrying over and continuing to, overflow into the rest of the season. I'm hoping that this just gets nipped in the bud as quick as it can, and he can, refocus. I would not be opposed to having him just sit out tomorrow. I wouldn't be opposed to that. The travel, obviously the travel off day, but again, just let him clear his head. I understand that means that somebody who is also struggling in Brett Beatty would most likely be in the lineup in that way. But Vientos, I am willing to give that off day if he needs it, because we know what he can do at his very best after what the year he had last year. And again, I think, the throw home, few defensive miscues, the not running it out. He also showed a lot of frustration visibly. I think it was in the second game of the series. I mean, it was a rough week for him. It 100% was. And we all know what he is capable of, like I said. And, if they need to slow the pace down a little bit for him, give him an off day tomorrow, that is fine. That is fine. I'm okay with that. I think that, you don't really need, you don't really need to go completely full force, of course, in April. If there's things that you need to walk a little bit around, I think that at some point, there's going to be that stretch where a lot of people need to be more hands-on. But I think that they need to approach this a little bit before it gets out of hand, because it just kept snowballing these last few days of what was going on with McGill, from just complete miscues from all different sides of the ball, which just can't happen. And even though it is the beginning of the season, and it's a young player, obviously more comfortable after last year where he was kind of playing up to trying to get a shot in the major leagues. Now he has that job. So, you don't want him to lose focus. I think that at some point, if the measures have to be, extended somewhere, they should do it. They should possibly do it. I wouldn't be opposed to not having him in the lineup tomorrow and just letting him, the guys are different. Like every guy is different. Some guys, need to just continue to push through it. Some guys just need to slow things down. And with Vientos, I think that he's earned the right in order to, be catered to in one way, because we've seen what he's done at the major league level, and it was fantastic. One of our biggest contributors last year.
I feel like when you look at his stats right now and you see that he's 2 for 26, I mean, was he ever 2 for 26 at any point last season? I mean, that was one of the things that really impressed us the most, is that it was his first full season, yet you wouldn't really see a slump, an extended slump, more so. And we just talk about all the adjustments that he had been making throughout the course of the season to always find success offensively. Even in the postseason, I mean, he had one of the best postseason performances in Mets history offensively. So no matter what the situation was, he still was hitting very well. And I feel like he knows how good he could be. So for this to be the first time he's faced, as Matt put in the chat, like real adversity and being 2 for 26, that's where you do see the frustration set in. And it's frustrating when he's not doing well offensively, because he's not going to make up for it defensively, and he's not going to make up for it on the bases, especially if he's not running hard. So, yeah. I mean, that's one thing that is very surprising to me, is that, like, if you're off to a rough start offensively and you have a chance to get on base, I would think that if there was any time you'd be hustling, that would be the time, just so you could get on base, just so you could be doing something for the team, especially if you're getting frustrated that you're not producing. Why would you not be hustling to first? So it really just doesn't make sense to me that happened. He said it was unacceptable and can't happen again. So we're going to hold him to that, and we're going to keep a close eye on it. And like I said, he's not very fast to begin with, but you got to try. I mean, you really got to try.
There was like a half step there. Like there was a half step for him beating that out. Yeah. Exactly.
He certainly could have been safe if he went 100%. As far as the potential backup third baseman, it's the regular season now. I mean, we'll see, but unfortunately, we've seen that before. But I want to be wrong on him. I really do, but it's the regular season.
I'm choosing to ignore it for now. We'll get it. We'll get close, obviously with people who can, take a joke a little bit better. I'm looking at you, Twitter, because I know some of you guys are watching right now. With people who can take a joke, I will troll and I will make jokes. But as of right now, I'm just gonna let it go. I'm not gonna go nuts over it. And I will try as hard as I can to leave him out of this for overreacting, even though it's been over 600 plate appearances in the major leagues. But anyways, I do want to get into what happened in this series and recap all of these games, of course, and run down this hectic 3-game series that we had in South Beach as the Mets can finally leave the Florida area because they have been there for all of spring training. But as for this series, in Game 1, David Peterson would make his season debut and pitch well, 2-run ball across 6 innings with 9 strikeouts on 89 pitches. Huskar Barazaban would toss 2 scoreless innings in relief with 2 strikeouts, and the Mets offense would get going. Starling Marte would tie the game at 1 in the 3rd with his first home run since July of the 12th of last year. Jose Siri would plate the go-ahead.
It was June, not July. It was June.
June?
Yeah,
Sorry, June.
It was a long time ago.
Whoops.
I was counting.
June. I'll write in June. So June 12th, Jose Siri would plate the go-ahead run on an RBI double in the 5th, and the Mets would never give it back. Pete Alonso would break the game open on a huge grand slam to make it 6-1. Luis Torrens would homer as well after a ball deflected off the center fielder's glove and over the wall to make it 8-1. Brandon Nimmo would add on with a 2-run homer to make it 10-1. All 9 Mets starters would record a hit. And in the 9th, Danny Young decided, hey, I'm the main character, and I wanted to cough up 2 runs, and eventually ended it to secure the series opener 10-4. Game 2, Kodai Senga would make his 2025 debut. More on that later. He would settle in after allowing a 2-run homer in the 1st. Brandon Nimmo would cut the lead in half with a solo home run in the 2nd. Francisco Lindor would tie the game in the 3rd on an RBI single, but the Mets shortstop would commit a costly error in the 4th that would lead to the Marlins taking a 4-2 lead on an RBI double by Graham Pauley. Max Kranick would save the bullpen with 3 scoreless innings in relief, going 9 up, 9 down. The Mets offense would stall from there, going 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position and dropping Game 2 4-2 to Miami. Game 3, this is the crazy one, so hold on to your hats. Clay Holmes would make his 2nd start of the year, going 4 2/3 innings of 1 earned run ball with 6 strikeouts, but the Mets defense would plague his day completely. A misplay by Tyrone Taylor in center field, a fielder's choice blunder by Mark Vientos, a couple of infield hits would end his day short. Reed Garrett would toss 1.1 innings scoreless. A.J. Minter would allow 2 earned runs, leading Ryan Stanek to finish the 7th. As for the Mets offense, it was the Pete Alonso show. He'd open up the scoring with an RBI double to make it 1-0 in the 1st. 2 on, 1 out. The big guy would save the day with a massive game-tying 3-run homer to straightaway center in the 8th to make it 4-4. Edwin Diaz would come on in the 8th, struggle a little bit after a leadoff infield single, a stolen base, and a wild pitch that would lead the runner to 3rd. Brett Beatty would throw home on a ground ball running on contact, and Luis Torrens would stretch the tag to the runner and get the call overturned. Torrens would then throw out Griffin Conine, trying to steal 2nd to end the inning. This game would head to extras, and on the back of 2 scoreless innings by Jose Budo, the Mets would take the lead on a bases-loaded walk by Jesse Winker to make it 5-4, and Mark Vientos would drive in an insurance run on a fielding error to make it 6-4, and that insurance run would deem very, very important as Danny Young decided to be a prick again, allowing the runner on second base to come home on an RBI single by Xavier Edwards to make it 6-5. The Mets would hand it to Huskar Barazaban to get the final 2 outs against his old team, and he would do just that, getting Jonah Bride to fly out to right field and striking out Otto Lopez to secure the 6-5 victory in 11 innings. Despite taking 2 out of 3 in Miami, the Mets offense proceeded to go a combined 5 for 27 with runners in scoring position, and along with the defense being held responsible for 5 unearned runs in this series. The Mets finish off a 6-game road trip and head home for their opener against Toronto with a record of 3-3 to start the 2025 regular season. Frank, I will go to you. Like we said, sloppy, very, very sloppy. They got the job done. Lots of takeaways, lots of individual performances to talk about. This series felt like it took quite a while to finish, especially that final game. Wow. I don't know what takeaways you have from this, but the good and the bad and the ugly, let it go. Have at it.
So let's start with the good. And I think the big thing is we talked about a couple episodes ago, one of the last spring training ones, who's going to get that final roster spot in the bullpen. We were talking about Huskar Brosbon, and we were talking about Max Kranick. And it was because the expectation that Paul Blackburn was going to be in the bullpen in a long relief role. However, Mr. Paul Blackburn, yet another kind of inflammation, injury thing, whatever. He's out of the picture. Brosbon and Kranick make it, and they both have been sensational, and they've been continuing what they did in spring training. So that is very encouraging to me that we saw both these guys have really good springs, and they're both building off it, and both of them have been crucial in the kind of roles that the Mets had them in, because they kind of are sort of this middle relief, long relief kind of role. Yeah. And in this case, Brosbon was the last man available because he's worked the most. Huskar Brosbon has thrown the most innings out of this bullpen. Yeah. He's appeared in the most games out of this bullpen, which is not, I don't think that was on our predictions as far as in the first 2 series, who's going to have the most appearances. It's been Huskar Brosbon, and he's earned it because he's been phenomenal. And like you mentioned, Danny Young was very, very bad. I mean, very bad. Yes. He put Brosbon in a very difficult spot, yet he still managed to escape it. And what I love about Brosbon is that his walks are down significantly. I mean, if he is finding the strike zone, because like we said, he has the stuff. So if he's just not walking the ballpark and throwing wild pitches, he could be a good pitcher. And he was a good pitcher for Miami, but when the Mets got him, that was not the same thing. But what I will say, as an encouraging thing for Met fans to look forward to, Danny Young, I hope, is not here much longer. I feel that once they feel that Daniel Nunez is ready to go, goodbye, Danny Young. Daniel Nunez comes back in because
you need 2 lefties, Frank. What are you gonna do with 2 lefties?
Listen, Danny Young was doing his best Sean Gilmartin impersonation, where it didn't matter if you're righty or lefty.
It felt to me. I'm like,
you know what I mean? Like, what's the point if you're not going to be a good pitcher? What's the point of being left-handed? Like we say, just give us the best relievers. And not like the other lefty falling on his face with a balk. I mean, that's a whole other issue. God. But that was that much about sloppy. Yeah. You don't want to mess up his hip again.
By the way, I hope he's okay because again, like we know that he has the hip issue. Exactly. He had a little bit start slow to the spring, having the hip surgery, of course. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but that was quite the tumble that he took. Let's just say that. So hopefully, and to be honest, he's actually kind of looked uncomfortable so far. These first few outings. So hopefully he's ready to go. Obviously, reliever consistency, that doesn't exist, but it's whatever, but continue anyways. But hopefully Minter is doing all right.
Yeah, Minter 2 games so far, the ERA at 10.80. So he definitely needs to be a lot better considering the contract and expectations. But I feel like with Kranick and Brosbon pitching so well, what if Paul Blackburn does get healthy? How in the world could you put Blackburn in and take one of those guys out with the way they're performing? Now, they're not going to keep the ERAs at 0, but I feel good about what I've seen for both of them, especially Kranick. I mean, he comes in there and he's aggressive and he's getting the job done. So I've loved what I've seen from him. So I don't really need to see Paul Blackburn. So I'm curious to see how that goes because if they keep it the way it's assembled, the bullpen can actually end up being one of the biggest strengths for this team. Yep. And I feel that with the injuries to the rotation, it really could be what kind of has them stay where they need to be for when those starting pitchers are ready. I feel like the bullpen could be in a position where it kind of holds them down because we talked about there was one of the games where Max Kranick pitched the 3 innings. Like that was huge. I'm pretty sure it was game 2 because then it allowed the Mets to have everybody else available for game 3 where they needed everybody else. So having these multiple guys on this team that could go multiple innings. So between those two, plus Jose Budo is very capable of doing that as well. So you have like a lot of guys who could do that kind of role of pitching multiple innings and saving the other arms, making Reed Garrett more effective, making Static more effective. Diaz, you could use him a little better. So it just really goes a long way. So I've been very encouraged by that. And then one other guy who the results haven't been amazing, but the things that he has done I felt have been very impactful. Jose Siri. And we talked so much when they acquired him about how he fits defensively, as he's a perfect fit for what they need in the outfield. But I feel that offensively, with his speed and his energy, he provides something that most of the other guys on this team do not. And when Jeff McNeil comes back, and he's back at second base, and Acuna's not there, Siri is really the only guy out there that has any type of speed. So he is going to be like the one guy who provides something different than everybody else. Whether it's his doubles, his making the break for the plate, stealing bases, he just provides something differently that everybody else on this team does not do. And when you have an offense that has been struggling, a lot of guys, Vientos, Lindor, Beatty, even Acuna, Winker. I mean, when you have so many guys struggling, you need to find other ways to get offense when you are a team so predicated on the home run ball. And if Jose Siri is going to be stealing some bases when he does get on, that could go a long way. And we've talked about it so much of using some different approaches when the long ball is not there for you, because the team is assembled for power. You put Juan Soto and Alonso and these guys on the same team. Brandon Nimmo, he's swinging for the fences. So they're a team that's made for homers. And if they don't fall out, you need to score some other way.
Some people in the chat, talking about some of the stuff with the bullpen. Matt saying some of Mendy's decisions were confusing me. Putting in Danny Young made no sense.
He wanted to avoid Brazovan. He wanted to avoid him, but it was just, they were up 2 runs, so he's like, I guess Danny Young could handle this, but he was like, you know what, might as well. You have the off day today, so he wanted to avoid, because like I said, he had already done the most work, and he had, and he is, don't forget, guys, he is 35. I mean, I feel like that's something that like we kind of forget because he has multiple years on the contract, but he is 35 as well.
I mean, someone's going to have to go 5 or 6 in this rotation, because you're going to end up you're going to end up killing this bullpen at the rate that they're going here. I understand that a lot of starters typically don't go deep into games anymore, but it's like at some point, someone's going to have to go this distance. We did get, it was 6 innings from Peterson, right, in the first game. I don't know if, obviously Senga's on the pitch count, so he'll probably go deeper into games as the season goes along. But the problem here that I do have is just overall the workload that you're giving to this bullpen. But the fact that they do have, a 7-man deep bullpen at this current moment, probably 8 once Danel Nunez gets completely ramped up. Danny Young obviously is out of options, so most likely he does get DFA'd. We've seen, a lot of guys get DFA'd and clear waivers, go right back to Syracuse. But we'll see if he gets picked up or not. Again, I've never really been the one to go with the lefty-righty type of stuff. Obviously, we know Danny Young. I'm pretty sure he was better against righties, wasn't he, last year? Like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't know what the whole scenario is here. I understand wanting 2 lefties in the bullpen, but I mean, you got to cut this loose, because he's obviously been the only weak link in that bullpen so far. It hasn't really been anything else noticeable, of course, and they've definitely held it down so far in these first 6 games. I'm just worried about I'm worried about the whole entire, workload for this bullpen. Obviously, because it's a very long season, and the fact that they're using it as much as they are, it's a little bit concerning so far. But again, start of the season, we will see how long that goes. But the fact that they also have a lot of these multiple guys in this bullpen who can go multiple innings and, have been able to utilize their stuff and make the adjustments to improve their stuff, that can go a long way, like we have said before, because you definitely can piece these things together if you get a short start, such as 5 innings, which we have seen, from this. We're going to see that a lot from this starting rotation, especially after it needs to get healthy, of course, with Montas and Manaya out. So, again, I think there are going to be some decisions they're going to have to make. I think Blackburn's going to be back before Danel Nunez, and I think that if Blackburn does come back, it will most likely be Danny Young who gets sent down. If it ends up being Brazaban or Kranick, it probably will just be because of the matchups and the options that they have. It shouldn't be, because they're just so, they're automatic right now. But we will see how they kind of configure that thing as the season goes on. But I think, obviously everybody can talk about the Francisco Lindor situation. I understand he starts the season off slow. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this anymore. Okay. I'm choosing to ignore it at this point. And I understand that sounds arrogant in that way. But this happens every year. I'm done. I don't want to talk about it anymore. He's going to keep it going. He's an MVP caliber player. All right. If this is needed for the Mets fans who don't like Lindor, and think he's an awful person for stealing all that money, too bad. All right. Too bad. All right. You're going to have to deal with that for a few weeks, and then maybe he will eventually pick it up. Who knows? Juan Soto, rough series for him. Kind of expected a little bit more from him, but we will see what happens in front of the home fans, of course. Pete Alonso. Wow. How about that? Vintage Pete Alonso on full display. Let's just say that. Great approach. He's not doing that little, that overthinking, that massive deep breath, eyes closed thing with 2 strikes where we know he's just going to overswing the next time. Not in his head, remembering that he's actually a good power hitter and has a lot of power in that bat. And Pete looks great. I mean, Pete looks fantastic. And so far, he's been one of the main contributors. And we have talked about Pete Alonso a lot, especially with his free agency and what has been going on. We have talked about it so many times, and we're not saying that Pete Alonso is a bad player. We never did. And if for those of you who believe that we did, I don't know what to tell you. But when it comes to Pete Alonso, we said it time and time again last year. You want your money, show up. You want your money, show up. You want your money, show up. We are begging you to show up. Please, for the love of God, please come through for us. He came through for us in this series. So if that is going to be the new norm for him, I would love to see it, because if he's going to keep doing this, you're probably going to see that Pete Alonso from 2022, who drove in 130 runs that year. I mean, he was at the top of the National League. I mean, that was a great season for him. So if we see 2022 Pete Alonso in this year with Juan Soto here, Lindor at his prime, I mean, that's the type of offense you want to see. Obviously, he needs to be more consistent. The Mets offense looked like shit for a majority of this road trip to start off the season, but it just obviously needs to get going. And I think that at this point, it only just goes to say that Pete Alonso looks a lot more relaxed at this current moment, and that's great. Again, I'm going to skip over Beatty for now, of course. Starling Marte, we got his first home run. That was great to see. I said I was tired of him in last episode because that was what I was expecting to see. I still would prefer to put Jesse Winker in there, even though he has not had the best at bat AB so far. I'm still just preferencing with Winker because I just think it's a lot more effective. As for some other stuff here, I think for the rest of the series, I mean, I do want to get into Kodai Senga in a second. Brandon Nimmo, great series from him. We already talked about Mark Vientos. Luis Torrens, holy Moses, saved our ass. Explosive saying Torrens has been elite with his defense. Now listen, Frank, I know that you will go to bat for the rest of your life for Francisco Alvarez. Obviously, he is MIA at this current moment. Wow. I mean, Luis Torrens has saved our ass so far this season. He did it last year as well. But that man's arm behind the plate is a treasure, just a complete treasure, especially after compared to before he was even here when guys were just running all over us. I mean, difference maker behind the plate.
The way last season began for the Mets was a huge streak of guys successfully stealing bases. And, obviously they opened the series against the Milwaukee Brewers, who were excellent at stealing bases. But having Torrens now from the beginning of the season and not having Omar Narvaez anywhere to be found definitely makes a big difference, especially when Francisco Alvarez is out. But not only has his defense been great, but how about the offense? So far, OPS at 978. That's not going to sustain, but he had a very nice home run dead center field. Almost took off the center fielder's glove right off his hand. I mean, and he hit well during spring as well. So
he did.
It has just been an excellent trade for them since last year. He continues to provide, I always talk about good value. He has been exceptional value for what they gave up, what they're paying, what the expectations were. He's really just been awesome. So at least this time around, we have him here now for when Alvarez is out. And, even Hayden Senga, I mean, he had a double of his own. So, I mean, shout out to him.
Good for him.
Could be worse. I mean, we've seen other Met backup catchers. It could be worse. So, and with the off days in the beginning of the season, they've been able to play Torrens quite a bit. So that's been encouraging too. He's been able to get pretty much. He's played in every single game so far. So we'll see how long that streak continues. But he has been a big piece for sure. I mean, because we saw last year when Alvarez went down, it wasn't looking good until Torrens got here. So now, like I said, I mean, from the beginning, that definitely makes a big difference.
Yeah. Let's not forget that tag that he made that pretty much almost saved the game, technically, I guess, if you're looking at it in hindsight and revisionist history. But again, I think, obviously having a second baseman who's not a traditional second baseman there, and it was not a great throw. He definitely saved it. He barely got the tag in there. Multiple accounts. This guy has been a difference maker defensively, and especially with a pitching staff that has some question marks in it, and definitely can walk a few, allow a lot of base runners, extend the inning. We've seen it a lot, especially from Clay Holmes recently. Definitely having a little bit of a tough time controlling the strike zone. But for now, I'm letting him adjust because the defense has done him no favors outside of Torrens. And, I think it was great to see, Hayden Senga. I know that he's a great defensive catcher as well. So that can definitely wrap up with the defense, of course, coming through for you. And then, of course, a lot of the defense that we saw. Tyrone Taylor, we know that he's better than that. It's probably a rarity there. We know that Francisco Lindor, those screw-ups, those don't really usually happen. Vientos... It's Vientos, but again, I think, covering their ways up the middle or whatever is the main reason as to why I, prefer to put, Acuna in that second base spot a lot better, because I just think it's just better up the middle. But as for some of you guys in the chat or anything else that we have, we had Carlos Ramos saying in regards to Pete, he said he's going oppo and up the middle. That's vintage 2022. Alonso, good signs. I'll give him some flowers, but I'm not kissing his ass yet. He needs to keep it up before I bend the knee. I mean, absolutely. But I do think that approach from spring definitely did carry over here. He looks a lot more relaxed. He's not as tense. It seems like that tensity kind of traveled over to Vientos. But again, I think they do need to be firing at all cylinders at some point, but to have a deep lineup like this where a lot of guys can crush you at any moment, that's definitely good enough protection for Pete Alonso, and he's definitely ran with it so far throughout these 6 games. That at bat that he had before that game tying 3-run homer was one of the best ABs I think I've ever seen Pete Alonso take. That was a battle, a Yordan Alvarez type of battle right there, where he was just wrecking havoc, tiring down the pitcher, waiting for him to make a mistake. Then he finally makes the big contact, shoots it out to center field, and the game is tied. So again, I can ask for nothing more than that, makes us all look stupid, because we all know that Pete Alonso, if he is hitting, then this offense is in pretty good shape. And obviously the offense has not been great. It's been slow, but good to see Pete Alonso perform the way he has so far. As for some of the underlying numbers that you're seeing, we're seeing, career bests as of right now. I don't think that's going to sustain. But 2022 Pete Alonso, if we can get that back, boy, that would be awesome. It would be awesome, especially with, what you can write in for Lindor and Soto throughout the season. And that's the type of offense that we expected. A high power offense this season that can chest up to a team that's in Atlanta, who is obviously struggling right now. But we're not going to victory lap just yet. I'm not biting my tongue here. Obviously, SNY loves to run their mouth so early, so we'll leave that up to them. But again, let's just say yes, Evan has his polar bear hat on. Absolutely. Carlos saying Soto did struggle in Miami, but having said that, he looked good in right field, covering more ground than I thought he would. Yeah, he had that one play in game 3, but I think everybody had that one play, to be honest. Like, everybody was just booting the ball around, so it was just awful. But other than that, I mean, he's looked fine. It's been fine. I don't think it's really been, that big of an issue. A lot of these things I feel like are just going to be covered up with just the pedigree of these defenders that you have. Because like I said, Tyrone Taylor, normally a good defender. I don't know if Siri had like a miscue or something. I don't know if he did. Maybe
not
somebody.
In this one in Houston. I mean, there was a ball that he kind of dropped on the transfer a little bit, but other than that, he's right. He had one play where he backed up Soto pretty well, so I mean that was good to see.
Yeah, I mean, not bad. Diddy, I don't think this is the Diddy that is very famous at the current moment for things, but he is saying that Lindor will come around. This is what he does. Getting on him or booing him just makes it worse. Let it settle. Again, this is like something that we talk about all the time. I mean, what else can you really say? Again, Truro saying Vientos' regression was obvious. There is a lot of holes in his swing. There is, and he's going to have to make those adjustments. We've seen him make those adjustments before. And I think that, there's just going to have to be more growing pains throughout that. I mean, yes, he established himself last year as a major league hitter, but again, there's things that he does need to figure out. But other than that, I do want to talk about one individual performance, and that being the return of a healthy Kodai Senga, who is on a pitch limit. Of course, like we have seen for these first few starts, it will be expected that he will be on a pitch limit. But as for his return, that looked like the full healthy return without him leaving with injury or abbreviated start in the playoffs or whatever. We got our first look of the Ghost's Revenge. There you go. Forkball was on complete point. Let's just say that. 5 innings pitched, like we said. 3 hits, 2 earned runs. We know that he got kind of screwed up by that error from Francisco Lindor. 8 strikeouts, 16 swings and misses. Just putting batters away with the forkball. Started off a little bit tough with the first 2 batters, but was able to... And he was able to figure it out. I heard a lot of people talking about his fastball being a little bit, a little bit noticeable at the beginning. And yes, he threw a few rough fastballs, but overall, 17.8 inches of induced vertical break. We've talked about this before. You want a vertical approach angle hovering around 4. That's actually an improved shape as compared to what he had in 2023, which was his Rookie of the Year campaign season. So that was encouraging to see. I don't know how much that sustains for. Obviously, the forkball was so effective. He was putting them away on 2 strikes. He was able to expand the zone. Obviously, yes, it is the Marlins. It is not the most disciplined team known to man, but for him to get that first start out there, that was very impressive. And again, the spin was up. Spin efficiency was up as well, as compared to that. The sweeper, of course, which can be a little bit volatile against those left-handed hitters. He was able to locate it properly and get a few swings and misses with that. And just overall, it looked like, after the few roughs around the edges in that first inning, it looked like he settled in fairly well. Obviously, it fell off a little bit towards the end there with the errors from Lindor, but overall a productive outing from Kodai Senga. We know that, again, he's had those struggles in the first inning, kind of grabbing his footing, but obviously being on a pitch limit of 75, he went to 77. But again, that was a very good outing. Let's just say that. Obviously, we're going to expect more down the stretch, with him expected to be one of the frontline pieces of this rotation after the great year that he had in 2023. Expectations are high. Frank, I will go to you. What did you like? What did you dislike from Kodai Senga? But it's just great to have him healthy and back on the mound again. And hopefully, those times are behind him. Fingers crossed, everyone. Knock on wood if you're superstitious.
The first inning definitely was rough. He was falling behind in counts, and then it led to him just throwing stuff down the middle, which ended up putting the baseball over the outfield wall, which is not what you want to do. But then he did certainly settle down, and that's something that's happened to him before. I remember his first full MLB season, he got to some struggles in the beginning of games.
Yes.
Maybe it's a nerves thing because he hadn't really... Last year was just such a weird year for him, as you mentioned, with all the different injuries in and out of the rotation. One start during the regular season, kind of some starts in the playoffs. So now it's like, okay, well, here's a fresh slate and see what you could do. And maybe there were some nerves, but then he was able to get it going. And like we said, the defense didn't do any helps. And it's especially relevant when you are on a pitch count. So if you have to throw extra pitches because the defense behind you is not making plays and routine plays, that definitely could be frustrating because now you have to throw more pitches, and you already knew that because of the pitch limit, he was not going to be able to work deep into the game to begin with. Well, now you really can't work deep into the game. But as we know, the Ghost Fork is his key pitch. So if he's getting the strikeouts with that, that's a big deal. And that makes him the pitcher that the Mets need. I mean, they do need someone that could generate a lot of strikeouts because they do have Mark Vientos at third base, and you do have an inexperienced second baseman in Brett Beatty, and you have Juan Soto in right field. So the best defense is striking out the hitters. So, I mean, that is something that you want to see from Senga. He's just an interesting player because even though he's 32, because he got here so late, he's still kind of inexperienced in a way. So, like, he's still a young player based off experience despite his age. So we don't have too big of a sample size yet. So we're still trying to get a feel for what kind of pitcher Senga is capable of being. And once again, because of the extra off days that happen in the beginning of seasons, he's able to not have too crazy of a workload. Now, once, and we talked about it earlier, but like if Blackburn is back, since Montas and Manaea are down, would you put Blackburn as a potential sixth starter? This way Senga could still have that, 6-day workload kind of thing. Maybe, but we'll see as everyone gets healthy, kind of how it all shakes out. Because, I mean, I wasn't here for the last episode, but, Griffin Canning turned out a good start against Houston, better than I expected. And I said that during spring training, he was way better than I expected. So hopefully he's able to build off that. But like we mentioned earlier with Braziban and Kranick, if you have guys pitching well, what do you do with them? Because McGill, he turned in a good start as well. So, it's like if you have... there you go, you got one. Now you got to get some more. So, if you get a lot of guys pitching well, how does that kind of shake things out? Because once Montas and Manaea here, they're definitely in the rotation. So I'm curious to see how they kind of configure it and if they keep Senga, how long the pitch count lasts. Do they go 6-man rotation? Who gets sent down? Like, there still is just a lot of things that are going to happen away from Senga that's going to kind of decide what his workload is like and how they utilize him. So I am curious about that too, because I feel like they really I mean, the main goal is to keep everybody healthy. So I feel like they would want to get that 6-man rotation, but they don't have the pieces just yet to do it. So it is going to be very interesting to see just how they use him and how aggressive they are with how many pitches he throws.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think it's probably going to be like a 75 probably for the first few starts, which is fine. I understand wanting to do that because you don't have that extra day of rest, of course, with the 6-man rotation. So it makes sense. The problem that we face here is, of course, who's going to be available in the bullpen. All the pitchers around him, are they going to be able to go a little bit more distance? Because again, there has been a slowdown in that fifth, sixth inning so far this year. Obviously, that's things to more be worried about down the line. But I think something such as this, with Matt saying his fastball was down in the first inning, 94-mile-an-hour fastball for that Edwards AB, and 93 for the Stowers homer. The velocity went up during the outing, but the placement needs to be better. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's all really has to do with the location, and I think that he did a fair job setting up the Ghost Fork down the stretch of that start, of course. Churro saying that I didn't realize his fastball had that much ride. It's actually higher in that performance that he had. It was higher, about like 2 inches higher of horizontal break or run, arm side run. And he also, it was up like a half of an inch of an induced vertical break. So again, it was definitely some sharp fastball shape as opposed to like those first few that he threw. But again, the Ghost Fork is, of course, the main pitch that we are looking at. And he was able to use that as the usual weapon that we saw in his rookie year in 2023. So we will see how that works out. I don't think the defense is going to be as bad behind him the next time. So who knows? Or actually, you know what? I guarantee that Francisco Lindor is not going to make those plays. All right, let's say that, because again, who knows? I think everything we speak into existence, I don't know. But what else can you say besides a few mistakes? He did look great. I think it's really all really just about keeping him healthy, because we all know this stuff is there. We all know he can apply it. He's going to be fine. But slowing him down into the stretch of the season is fine, because we're definitely going to need those innings when we're in these pennant races, or maybe we're never in a pennant race and we just run away with the division, just like the '86 Mets did. Who knows? I mean, we're that dominant, of course. Again, we will see how all of that looks. Speaking of some pitching, first pitches, because I see a lot of people talking about the home opener with Tyler McGill. Before we move on, did you see who the Phillies had throw out their first pitch? What was it, yesterday or 2 days ago? It looks like they're trying to put off a spoof of our Grimace thing. If you can't beat them, join them, because I guess we beat the living crap out of their bullpen last year. So Ronald McDonald threw out the first pitch at Citizens Bank Park for their home opener, or one of their first games. So, yeah. Again, it's best form of imitate, like best form of flattery is imitation, right? I guess. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's what happens when you don't make big additions to your team. You have to go to Ronald McDonald. You weren't able to add Juan Soto. You weren't able to add Pete Alonso, so you go to Ronald McDonald. I mean, it's not a bad consolation prize.
Yeah, I mean, we missed out on Snell and Montgomery, so we had to go to Grimace. So again, there's always a plan B. So at least the Phillies do have a plan B in that point. But I think before we move on to some of the other stuff that went on this week, Frank, I'll turn it over to you for the injury report. Now, of course, we have it more of just, I think it's just rotation.
Yes.
Rotation stuff, pretty much. Just all really with that health sector of the roster. So I'll flip it over to you for the injury report.
All right, so we are starting it off with Sean Manaea. Mets starting pitcher suffered a setback during his rehab ramp up this week. Mets manager Carlos Mendoza stated that Manaea received a PRP injection in his right oblique and will be shut down from throwing for 2 weeks. The 33-year-old southpaw is now on pace for a late May to early June return as the new best-case scenario. Frankie Montas, Mets starting pitcher, started throwing from 60 feet on Wednesday afternoon. Now 6 weeks after being shut down for 6 to 8 weeks, the 32-year-old right-hander is still on schedule with his original ramp-up expectation as he recovers from his right lat strain that he experienced at the beginning of camp. Paul Blackburn, Mets right-handed pitcher, began throwing long toss on Monday afternoon for the first time since receiving a PRP injection to treat his right knee soreness. The 31-year-old, he's 31, is expected to return at some time in April and will likely be in the starting rotation to form a 6-man unit during a stretch of 13 consecutive game days. So with Manaea, that definitely is pretty frustrating because it's like we talked about with the obliques. They're tricky. You will be ramping up. You feel like, okay, I'm good. I'm ready to get going again. And then it kind of flares up and then you go back down. And it's tough to treat. Like I said, not all obliques are the same. And with pitching, and with his kind of new delivery, like I said, it doesn't look very nice on the human body. I mean, pitching is already a regular motion as we talk about all the time, but this new delivery that Manaea is trying, it looks extra unordinary. So how that affects obliques, it can't be good. So I'm curious to just see like how it goes for him as he continues to now incorporate this new delivery, how his health is going to be throughout the entirety of this new contract they gave him.
Yeah, we'll see. Again, pitchers get injured. They always do. But it sucks that we saw that setback. And speaking of pitching, let's talk about Sandy Alcantara for a second. Now, we did have a few comments coming from two of our outfielders who were talking about, I think, their fellow countrymen from the Dominican Republic, Sandy Alcantara, who is expected to be on the trade market available. Because the Marlins don't give a shit. But again, definitely the Mets are going to be a name to look out for this type of pitcher or some kind of frontline pitcher, of course, towards the trade deadline to make a race to the postseason. And we did see Soto and Marte speak very, very fondly of their fellow countrymen. And I do want to bring in some of these quotes that they did have because it is very, very interesting to see some guys, especially Starling Marte, who was a former teammate of Sandy Alcantara when he was in Miami. And then, of course, Juan Soto, who's definitely going to have quite a voice on this franchise for quite a while. We've seen Francisco Lindor have a lot of it. So I do want to get into some of the comments here. As for what Soto said, he said it would be one of the best trades that we could have in potentially trading for a guy like Sandy Alcantara. I know we have great pitching here, but adding a Cy Young winner like that would be huge. It's going to take a lot to get him. If he goes to a team that has a chance to compete at the end, I think you're going to see who he is. He is doing that on a team with no serious chance to go to the playoffs, but he keeps trying and competing without run support. Whenever he goes to a winning team, you are going to see Sandy Alcantara, what Sandy Alcantara is capable of. Marte also talked about the makeup of the type of pitcher that he is and his ability to maybe handle NYC. Says he has the stuff and the mental makeup to be able to play in New York. He's got the mental strength and physical gifts to be able to have success here. And I think we have shown that we help pitchers even more. Looks like quite a sales pitch that we are seeing from Soto to Marte to Sandy Alcantara. And listen, I think we all know that we would take Sandy Alcantara on our team with no hesitation. We already know that pitching can be expensive. Controllable pitching can be expensive. We know that Sandy Alcantara has a contract through 2027, 2028, something like that. He has a club option in the last year of his deal, so he does have years of control here. Now, obviously, this is going to be more of a trade deadline situation, and maybe we could have talked about this later on. But to see this just go on notice, and to be honest, I mean, Mets reporters talking about this and Mets beat writers saying, well, this is the main topic, of course. We know what Sandy Alcantara is capable of. We know that he had Tommy John surgery the year ago, got hurt, huge innings eater, can give you volume, and I think it was shown in Game 2 of this series. Man, still got it. He's back. He's good. He'll be back in there. He's 29 years old. So, again, in the prime of his career, I mean, to be honest, I think that if we're talking about the Sandy Alcantara sweepstakes, I think the Mets are ahead right now. I know it's early, and I know that the trade deadline is months away. But again, quite a sales pitch here. Let me just say that. And who knows? Who knows down the line? Again, this would help a lot. It would help a lot for the Mets rotation and also on a contract that is like a massive steal. I mean, just a massive steal for the type of money that starting pitchers are getting these days.
It would be a big help, and Francisco Lindor also talked about Alcantara as well. He had also said that it would almost be like adding Soto. He said you add Soto, it's going to help the team. You add Alcantara, and it's going to help the team. So that's another very prominent voice in the Mets organization being outspoken about wanting the team to go for Sandy Alcantara. And like you said, I mean, who wouldn't want to go from when he was healthy? I mean, the guy was amazing. And like you said, he's, right now, age 29. I mean, that's still very good. So you'll take that. And the contract, to your point, is also ridiculously awesome. I mean, he's getting paid $17.3 million this year, $17.3 million next year. And then in 2027, you have a club option of $21 million. So, I mean, that is great for someone his caliber. So you get him, like I said, deadline to be 2.5 seasons worth of Sandy. And I mean, you definitely could use it, and they're going to need it. I feel like even if you have a healthy Montas, a healthy Manaea, even if the rotation is doing okay, you still could use another frontline piece, or maybe your only frontline piece. So Sandy Alcantara definitely would do that. But as we know, especially because of how good that contract is, not only the salary, but the amount of years, it is going to take a lot to get him, which means that David Stearns would finally have to part with big-time prospects, and is he willing to do that? We still don't know the answer to that quite yet. If there was one, if there were players that I would do it for, he's up there. I mean, he really would help a ton. As far as, like, lineup, as much as, we don't love McNeil's fit or his contract, like, lineup, it could be one of the better lineups in baseball when healthy, especially the top half. We already know that. But the rotation, I just don't see it. Like, I know Clay Holmes could be all right, and Kang it's all right. But
stretch wise, it has concerns. I think that there's talent there, but like being able to do this over 162 games and into the playoffs, that still remains a question.
In the postseason, when you're matching up with really good rotations, like the Philadelphia Phillies, they have an excellent rotation. The Braves will get it going. They have a great rotation. The Padres are playing amazing. They have a great rotation that got improved. I mean, obviously the Dodgers rotation is way better than it was last year because of all the injuries. So that's crazy to think about. So you're going to be matching up with great starting pitching, especially in the National League. So you need guys that could do that. And Sandy would be one of them. So these guys also don't routinely become available via the trade market because of how important starting pitching is. Teams want to hang on to that. And Marlins and Mets doing business on a big piece doesn't normally happen. But, the Marlins, they did business with the Phillies plenty. So we're in the National League East too. So I would hope so. Maybe there's that in-division sales tax, so to speak. So there could be that aspect too, where you're paying even more than you really should have. But again, I'll kind of believe it when I see it. Like, I know obviously the whole team wants it, but Stearns is going to have to do something he hasn't done with this organization in order to make that happen. So I hope it does. But at this point, I'm not counting on it because they've had opportunities. Garrett Crochet was available last trade deadline, and some other guys were available. And even this offseason, maybe you could be more aggressive, even for one of your own guys, Freddie Peralta, like I keep mentioning. I feel like you probably could get him if you really wanted to. So I just don't see him doing it quite yet. I hope so, but I don't see it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's more of a trade discussion, and we've talked about just kind of holding down the fort and existing to the trade deadline with this starting pitching. And I do think that this is the year where they're going to go in on a frontline piece. We've talked about Dylan Cease before. We have talked about Michael King before. Luis Castillo has come up before. But as for overall situation, years of control, upside in the prime of their career, Sandy would take the cake out of all of them, of course. Wherever you do rank those guys, Sandy would be the number one guy to go after. Stuff-wise, it would be Cease, no matter what. Sandy is a little bit lower on that way, but I mean, the pitchability that he has, the way that he expands the zone, the way that this man can induce ground balls at a ridiculous rate, it definitely would help you, especially in the postseason. And you know what Soto said about, once he gets on a team, I mean, kind of trashing the Marlins on there, but it's kind of true, because that's basically what the Marlins have been. I think it would be something that would be awesome to figure out. But at some point, I see that they're actually talking about this right now on SNY as we speak. Will Salmon, one of our top beat writers, one of the best in the business, saying pump the brakes on a little bit for now. It's only April. So basically what Frank just said. But again, this is somebody that you definitely could keep your eye out as for somebody that they can make an all-in push for at the deadline. And we will see how they approach it. It all really has to do with the position that they are in. There is no rush at this current moment. We know that the Marlins are not going to be much of a threat, even though technically they're ahead of us in the standings. But I think that eventually they're going to drop below us. I'm not a gambling man, but I think that's probably going to end up happening, because I just don't think that Marlins team is good at all. But, especially after some of the stuff that they were playing in that first game, which fundamentally broken that team is. But again, I think at some point, we'll see what they do. I understand that they have some options, like we have said, like Explosive saying. I could see Stern saying Minaya Montes coming back and calling up Sproat is like trading for a pitcher. It's like a trade deadline acquisition, like that entire thing. I think they're going to look. I think that they are going to pursue it. Will it happen? Who knows? But it all really just has to make sense. And a guy like Sandy Alcantara, if you're talking about, mortgaging some of these prospects over, even though they would probably play them in division, which would be the only thought. Some of these guys that could be in that trade could be those pesky types of Marlins players that piss us off for years and years to come. But if you're making a push to the World Series, you're making a push for your rotation, this would be the type of guy to go after. Years of control, fantastic consistency when he is healthy and on the mound. Can't really predict anything really with pitchers, obviously. And he's there to eat innings. He's there to go out there and, basically right in 7 innings. I mean, that was basically what he was for a decent amount from 2021 to 2023. Obviously getting hurt. He's got the new jolt to his arm. So we will see what happens in regards to a guy like Sandy Alcantara. But it was very interesting to see the Mets be very, very vocal out of the gate. I mean, we are 6 games into the fucking season here. And Soto to just be very, very open in that way. That was very interesting to see, for him to just be like, oh, well, this Marlins team's not that good. So it'd be great to get this guy, even though we're playing this Marlins team for the next 3 days. I'm just going to publicly say that. So anyways, it was great to see them speak very, very highly of him, because we all know that a lot of people in this league speak highly of Sandy Alcantara. We know how good of a pitcher he can be. And, guys who get wasted away on those teams, let's hope if that team in Los Angeles doesn't snipe him away, because apparently they get just everyone. Maybe the Mets can get a victory once in a while, especially without paying $765 million to get it done. Either way, I do want to talk about, just wrap up this series the best way that we know how. Of course, with our favorite segment, Studs and Duds. One player that played fairly well in this series, we want to give some flowers to. One guy that did not, and we would like to hold accountable, which is something that has been said in the Mets clubhouse a lot. Holding each other accountable. Isn't that a breath of fresh air, isn't it? Anyways, start off with studs. Frank, I will swing it over to you. Your stud for this game, this 3-game series in Miami that we all should pretty much flush down the toilet because it was a nightmare to watch.
Yes, it's got to be the polar bear, Pete Alonso, and also the kind of home runs he hit. Because
Yes.
we talked about before that you could still put up numbers, you can still hit 30 home runs, but are you doing it in a meaningful, impactful way? And in Game 1, he got things started off with the huge grand slam that really got the Mets going. But that at bat that he had in Game 3 to hit the game tying 3-run homer, and he had an RBI double earlier in that game too. So I mean, that was a 4 RBI game for him again. But for Pete, like you say, he was fighting off tough pitches. But what I found very interesting is that there were pitches like in the other batter's box. There were pitches that were very outside, ones that we saw him chasing and not hitting, or hitting off the end of the bat that he was fighting off. And in those home runs that he hit, right center field in general. So, he's not trying to do too much. And that's always been my main critique of him. You have insane power to begin with. Just go with the ball. Just hit the ball well, and good things will happen. You don't need to pull it. You don't need to overswing. You need to stay balanced. If he does that, great things can happen. And that's exactly what happened. So I was really pleased to see that. And I think my one other big Pete Alonso stat so far this season, this year, 5 walks to 2 strikeouts. That is not what we see from Pete Alonso. So that just goes to show you that, like we talked about from the mental aspect, being more patient, not chasing, not being overly aggressive, and just kind of doing like what he's capable of. Like if it's not a good pitch to hit, you let it go. If it's in the zone, crush it. I mean, it seems simple, but with a lot of players, especially somebody like him, it doesn't always happen. But he's finally doing that, and that's really big for this team. And he has 8 RBIs so far this season. The guys that are next on the list, you have Brandon Nimmo at 3 RBIs. So, I mean, so far, we always talk about Pete being the RBI guy, and he's been that for the team so far.
Yeah. In that game yesterday, that was some vintage Pete Alonso. Let's just say that. Those 4 batted balls that he had, 114.5 miles an hour, 113.1 miles an hour, 107.1 miles an hour, and a 113.4 miles an hour on that home run. All 4 of them were barrels. He has 6 barrels already this season, and that is in
a good percentile.
In a very, very good percentile. Let's just say that. But I think it's in how many batted balls? He's put quite a few in play, though. So he's making a decent amount of contact. Like he said, not as much of the strikeouts. This is 6 barrels in 19 batted balls. So that is a barrel rate of 31.6%. Very sustainable, guys. Anyways, I mean, this is the man of the hour right here. We did not win that game without him. We do not secure this series without him, because he obviously got that big hit in the first the first game, of course, the grand slam, driving in runs, being the run producer that he is. I still personally prefer him in that cleanup spot. That's just me. I think at some point, the Mets just, I just want to see swings from Pete Alonso where he doesn't look like he's going to fall on his face. That's what I saw last year. Saw it a little bit in 2023. This is the 2022 Pete Alonso that we have seen to a decent extent, from an unsustainable sim, because as of right now, he's a 201 bat, which is not going to sustain whatsoever. But so far, a fantastic start to the season for Pete Alonso. Couldn't have been done better for him. And especially after the year that he had last year, it's a put up or shut up move. I mean, he's 30 years old right now. We have seen a lot from Pete Alonso. We know his MO. He's still hilarious to watch run. But again, when it comes to, Pete Alonso and we've seen his struggles. We've seen his red hotness. As for Pete Alonso, we've seen his best. We've seen his very, very worst. He's been a Met for 6+ years now. That AB in the 8th inning, that was one of the best ABs I think I've ever seen Pete Alonso take. And that says something, because we usually don't see him fight off as many pitches as he is. But as of right now, he looks locked in, and I hope it continues. I hope it continues into the 3rd game of this Toronto series, because I'd love to see it live. Listen, we have talked about, we have talked about plenty of times with Pete Alonso. We're brutally honest here, and he was not performing last year. And listen, if Pete Alonso could shut us up, and Pete Alonso could put away the critics from last year, by all means, please do that. Please, I am begging you, because we know what he's capable of. We have seen what he is capable of. And what he is capable of is being one of the most prolific power hitters in this game. And I am very, very impressed with what I've seen so far. This looks like a completely new approach. Don't get overzealous. Don't get in your head. Don't overswing. Just realize, Pete, you have ridiculous 80 grade raw power. Use it. That's it. That's all you got to do. You're naturally powerful. As for my stud in this series, I think I already gave a shout out to him. Obviously, Brandon Nimmo had a good series. Rough 3rd game or whatever, but I have to give this. I have to give this to Luis Torrens, because this man saved our ass so many times. I mean, a good defensive catcher can go a long way, especially with in a game where there's a lot more walks, guys are throwing harder, you need volume, those types of outs, filling in the margins in that way, you need that. You definitely need that. And listen, we know that Francisco Alvarez is the future guy, but again, Luis Torrens, a fantastic series that he has had. He looks good at the plate too. We know he's not the best hitter, but again, when it comes to his defense, not the best blocker, but his arm, game changer. Just a complete game changer. And especially after what we were seeing at the beginning of the season last year, like we said, where guys were just running all over us. It's a breath of fresh air. This guy's arm is just absolutely ridiculous. And that's what David Stearns would call great run prevention. As Explosive says, run prevention has always been very good for us. There you go. All right. As for not very good for us, there was some trials and tribulations in this series, like we have said. Sloppy, very sloppy. And there were a few that were the guys who... There were a few guys that were the contributors to that. As for your dud, Frank, I'll go right back to you.
Yeah, I'll take Danny Young. I mean, like you said, that game was just so sloppy, and the Mets, they looked like they were about to lose it, and then, they make the comeback to tie it, and then look like they're about to lose it, and Luis Torrens saves the day, and then they take the lead later on in extra innings, so it's like, for Danny Young to almost still blow that game after the Mets, it took them so much to get into that position, to be up 6-4, and you feel like, okay, we're actually going to win this game, to still almost lose it. That would have just been a disaster, and Brosbon really had to save him there, because that was just not good at all.
Yeah. Danny Young, there's good stuff there. There is. But Jesus Christ, does he lose the strike zone so easily? And we saw that a lot. I don't know if it was just like him being overworked last year, but God, I'm counting down the days until we bring up Nunez or bring up somebody, and Danny Young is sent down, because obviously he's out of options. He should not be with this team by like June or July. We've talked about guys who should not be here anymore, so who knows how long he will be here. It always seems like we get one leech throughout the season. Last year it was Ottavino. He just seemed to be here, even though he definitely overstayed his welcome. So who knows what is going to be the situation there. But at some point, we are going to have to make some decisions with some of these pitchers getting healthy, such as Minaya, Montas, even Blackburn. Daniel Nunez is another one. So we'll see. We also do still have what's his name in the organization, even though he's not on the 40-man roster anymore. Sean Reed Foley could be somebody that contributes. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. Some other guys on the 40-man roster too. So we will see. especially with some fresh arms as well, because of, like we've said, the overuse of the bullpen. It's not great. Another thing that I do want to talk about to wrap this series up, Keith Hernandez. Keith Hernandez, hot mic. I mean, hey, we were all agreeing with him before they came back in the 11th inning. Talked about the Mets' piss poor hitting. That's what he said. To be honest, I wouldn't put it past him to put something else and say, this is fucking awful hitting. But that's Keith. That is Keith. He will express himself in that way. But to be honest, it definitely represented, how we were feeling in that way, because it was rough. It was a very rough experience in that third game, specifically seeing them waste a lot of opportunities, lots of inefficient philosophies being put on display. Not philosophy, but just thought process too. Which we have been seeing. I was talking about this with Andrew last time, guys on base, swinging first pitch, which again, do the most damage possible. But again, take some pitches. If the guy cannot throw a strike, don't bail him out, in that way. And then of course, staring at 2 strikes with the bases empty, things like that. Just the approach that just was very scattered all over the place. And that is piss poor hitting. Like Keith said, I don't think anybody can really disagree, right? I mean, it's bad.
I mean, yeah, listen, it may not be what people normally expect to hear, but he wasn't wrong. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. It definitely was frustrating, especially considering the team that they're facing. Like we said, it is the Marlins, and this time you were not facing Sandy Alcantara, so there was no excuse for them to not cash in. And like you mentioned in the beginning, but they had so many opportunities with runners in scoring position, just didn't capitalize. So, I mean, they had their opportunities, but they couldn't come through. And, obviously in extra innings, you always have a runner in scoring position. So, there were plenty of opportunities to, win this game earlier that they didn't. And but it kind of woke them up, because he said it, and then all of a sudden the offense woke up. So maybe he lit a spark.
It was comforting. It was very comforting to hear him experience what we saw, and also it going into extra innings. We all know that Keith wants to get home. It was the final thing he wanted to, say hi to his new cat or whatever. His usual thing. Keith says stuff. If you take him seriously, which a lot of Twitter does, Keith says stuff that is very unhinged. We know that's been his thing. Should he not be saying half of this stuff? Probably, yes, because, this day and age, he probably would get in trouble. But it's kind of like, your old grandpa who says stuff that you kind of turn your head at Thanksgiving. It's that. But, I mean, you can't say it wasn't piss poor hitting, because, again, like I said early on, 5 for 27 with runners in scoring position that entire series. The Mets, I don't remember what it was in that Houston series, but they are...
they weren't even
really
getting
bad
on base in that series, so it still was very bad hitting.
Yeah, it was very, very sloppy from both sides. Like we've said, that is definitely the theme word here for sloppy, sloppy, sloppy. So hopefully they can execute a little bit better in this next series coming up, which I do want to preview, and that being the Mets' first home series of the year. It will be their home opener tomorrow at Citi Field. And they will be playing the Toronto Blue Jays. So, as for the upcoming series preview and their pitching probables, the man who always likes to start off with the tone, it seems like he's always getting an opening start, Tyler McGill will get the ball in Game 1 up against Kevin Gausman. We know, frontline starter, one of the best. That will be at 3:10 p.m. Eastern Time on SNY. That will be the home opener. There will be the big ceremony. Everybody will get all of their cheers. I'm sure Danny Young will get a decent boo from the crowd. Who knows? But as for Game 2, Griffin Canning will look to stack on from his first start, which was great against the Astros, and we'll go up against our old pal Chris Bassett, who was here a few years ago. He will return to Citi Field, and hopefully the Mets hit a little bit better, because I'm pretty sure he threw like a complete game shutout the last time he was here as a member of the Blue Jays. So let's do a little bit better with that. Game 3, a game that I will be in attendance for. Very excited for. Obviously, seeing my favorite pitcher in the world, David Peterson, go up against Bowden Francis, who had us no hit through like 8 innings and a third before Francisco Lindor put one over the wall, and the Mets just completely exploded in their 0-100 offense that they love to do. And that will be at 140. That will be the series finale. Now, as for you guys in the chat, before I swing it over to Frank of what he's thinking going into this series, 20% of you are saying that the Mets are going to sweep this one. 69% of you are saying that the Mets will take 2 out of 3. 3% of you are saying that the Jays will win this series, and 9% of you are saying that the Jays will sweep. I don't think I've gotten one completely correct yet. I think I said the Mets will win 2 out of 3 from the Astros, and I said they would sweep the Marlins. So I don't know I don't know what we can go out from here, but going into this series, Mets versus Blue Jays, Vladimir Guerrero's Mets audition, maybe? Who knows? What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about former Mets. I mean, how about Andres Jimenez? He's now a Blue Jay, and he's been off to a great start. He's got 3 home runs this season, OPS at 1,131. So, not going to sustain, but still something to keep an eye out for. One of the things I'm very fascinated about this particular series is that the Blue Jays are starting 3 right-handed starting pitchers. So what kind of lineup are the Mets going to go with? We didn't really talk about him in this episode, but Brett Baty has been struggling. Does he start all 3 games? We talk about, Marte having a home run and so far playing all right. I mean, he's getting hit by pitches a little too much, so that's helping his numbers, but maybe reducing his number of games if he keeps getting hit by pitches, but that's kind of his game. So, I wonder, does Winker start all 3 games? I just am very curious to see the kind of lineup configuration that the Mets go with for these 3 games, considering it's all against the right-handers and good right-handed pitchers. Like you mentioned, Kevin Gausman, good pitcher. Chris Bassett, he's had success against the Mets. And then obviously Bowden Francis, also a good pitcher, who also had success against the Mets. So, when Lindor hit that big home run against him last year, Lindor was on MVP caliber. He was playing amazing. This time it's April Lindor. So, it is going to be very interesting to see what they do when they are facing him. So it's going to be a good matchup. Like I said, glad they're back in Citi Field. But it's one of those ones that I'm just not really sure how you could predict it, because it's just with the way the offense has been so far this season, like I could see the Blue Jays actually doing well here. But I just feel like when you look at the total of the Blue Jays roster, and you have some other guys out there like Ernie Clement and Alan Rodin and Nathan Lukes, like, come on, guys. I mean, you gotta win these games. When you're facing Toronto, who's they're off to a good start so far this season, but all in all, not a great team. You have to win them. We talk about it all the time. I mean, that was one of the big keys for the Mets to actually make the playoffs last season, was doing well against bad teams. Like, they have got to do well against teams like Toronto if they do want to have a wild card berth, because like you said earlier, we're not throwing the parade yet that the Braves are 0-7. I mean, they just ran into some horrible luck facing the Padres and Dodgers, because you could talk about how the Braves have not won a game. Well, the Dodgers and Padres hadn't lost a game. So, it kind of goes both ways there. So it's still going to be very competitive in this division, especially with the Phillies also being very good. So you got to win these games against Toronto. You just have to secure some wins there. They might not be a bad team right now, but where did they finish last year? And they didn't add much. They added Santander, but all in all, I mean, what other big-time upgrades are you looking at? They could be off to a good start now. They added
Jimenez.
Yeah, they
He's
added
on
Jimenez.
an MVP caliber pace right now.
Yeah, but listen, we'll see where they're at when the season ends. They're not in my playoff prediction, so to speak. I don't anticipate them making the postseason. So when your face teams are not playoff caliber and you want to make the playoffs, you got to beat them.
Yeah, I'm looking at Fangraphs right now. We have 2 right-handers starting off this series for the first 2 games. So we're going to face some of these platoons. Will Wagner,
who has been good so far. That is, he's related obviously to Billy Wagner.
Yeah. And then Alan Roden. I don't really know much about these guys. This is the bottom three of their lineup. We know that George Springer is not the player he used to be.
He's been off to a good start, though. I mean, he hit a home run.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it was yesterday.
Wow.
So he's
are the Blue
429.
Jays playing up to their potential for the first time in like 10 years? Jeez.
We'll find out.
But hey, we will see if they can find a way to cool off these bats. You never know. I don't know. It will be in a little bit colder of weather. The Mets have not been in cold weather for a while, so we'll see what the offense is able to do. We know that Vladimir Guerrero Jr., we know how much of a threat he can be no matter what. I know he's off to a little bit of a slow start, but at any point, don't poke the sleeping giant, as we all say, in relation as well to the Braves, who are 0-7. Yes, I know no team started off 0-7, has gone to the postseason, but this is a Braves team that we have seen haunt our nightmares for decades. I ain't ruling them out just yet. So I'm not going to victory lap it. I understand it's fun to see them in distress. They had a lot of distress last year and they almost beat us. So I'm just going to say I'm not gonna victory lap here, and it's not me just being cautious or me being a party pooper in this way. This is a long season. 162 games have to be played, and 7 shitty games from a Braves offense that I know can pop off at any moment.
The offense hasn't been that bad. It's the bullpen. Their bullpen is brutal because that's things that the Braves have had leads late in games in a majority of them. But between Hector Neris and some other guys, they have blown. I mean, they got walked off. I mean, Mookie got him. Ohtani got him. They have been brutal in the bullpen so far to start off the season.
I saw
lot of 7th inning, 8th inning.
I don't know. I saw a screenshot from the Braves. And listen, I don't want to make this all about the Braves because, again, we will be talking about them eventually. But I saw a screenshot of the Braves of their lineup. It was like everybody was like an OPS below 500 or something. I don't know if that's just been skewered now after that, but like, I don't know. Cause like I saw that their lineup was like playing like shit, but yeah, I do see that their bullpen has just been a mess, but
yeah.
We'll
they've had leads
again.
I mean, because the thing is, like we said, they still have the good rotation. So it's like, even if your offense isn't performing great, you have Chris Sale, you have Ronaldo Lopez and all these guys, you could still be in games and then your bullpen just blows it. I mean, we've seen that before. We've experienced it.
Yeah. Don't they have Craig Kimbrell in there?
Yeah, I mean, it's not the original Braves Craig Kimbrell, so
yeah,
we'll see.
It's been a while. And
you know what? They get to play the Marlins, so
he's
I
actually
will
not up with them yet.
Yeah, so the Braves get to play the Marlins. I will go on a limb and say that the Braves winless streak will end during the Marlins series. That's my bold prediction.
We'll see. Who knows? You never know, because if they never win if they haven't won a game in the first week, so they'll never win a game ever, right? I mean, that's kind of how that works. Anyways, Matt's saying, no, offensively, they have been horrible. Yeah, I saw, like, what's his name's been terrible. Was it Olsen? Olsen's been bad? I don't know. Again, this is the first
last
week.
Year, too. So,
yeah.
I mean,
again, it's the Braves. Like, you're not fooling me. I'm sorry. You can't fool me. You just can't. It's not possible. Anyways, as for some other things in this chat, because we do have quite a bit of time, let's just say that. Milo earlier on said, what's up, fellas? Beatty really rocking the ball this season to start this season. Listen, I'm keeping it in my back pocket. Stanley saying that Acuna needs to start over Beatty. I mean, I just think he's just a better fit at second base. In regards to Beatty or whatever, what he's doing, I just think that he can help you in the margins a lot better. I just think it's just a lot better. But Carlos Ramos actually talking about this, putting it on earlier, saying, are we surprised that Taylor has played more than Siri? Didn't they say something on the broadcast about like the swing pass to fastballs and low balls or something as to why Taylor was playing a majority?
They both have a tough time hitting the baseball.
Split playing time though.
So I mean, swing pass or not, they both struggle with contact. I feel like Tyrone Taylor, like he did a lot for this Mets team last year, so I feel like they're giving him the benefit of the doubt, like giving him another chance. But like I said, I feel like Siri, with what he provides, not only defensively, but the stolen base threat, just being crazy and creating havoc. Like it's like a good thing and a bad thing, his craziness. But I feel like with the way the rest of the team is constructed, very station to station, I feel like you need a little bit of chaos. So we'll see how it all shakes out with the playing time.
Yeah. Again, it's all really about him making contact, because when he does make contact, the ball will go far. That's the main reason as to why he hasn't really had much consistency at the major league level. It looks like he's I don't know if it's like, I don't think you're not going to get sprint speed or anything, but he's top 5%, top 3% in the league in a lot of these marginal tools. So again, I think you're going to get an equally amount of playing time for Siri and Taylor. It all really just has to do with, who's pitching. I think with that matchup, it's most likely going to occupy the 9-hole or the 8-hole because actually Torrens has been hitting pretty well, so he'll probably move him up in the lineup to like 7 or 6. You never know. So the 9-hole again, it's really all just like, can they be competitive? Can there be guys to set up the top guys? It's whatever. Stanley also saying here, Brazaban has been very, very impressive. That's somebody that we did not shout out in the studs and duds. Again, against his former team yesterday, with his back against the wall, we didn't really see him that many in these high leverage situations since he's got here. So, we'll see how, how this all folds out again. But we will see, with this bullpen, there are some guys in the minors that maybe can help out this season. It's a long season. So hopefully we can get 5 or 6 innings out of somebody. That would be awesome. Let's just say I think this is a decent matchup for a guy like Tyler McGill. This is a Blue Jays team that likes to swing a lot. They like to put the ball in play. They have a lot of these guys that strike out a lot. So this is the type of time for him to do well. But as for with him against Houston, I said that this one scared me, and he ended up pitching fairly well. So again, who knows what happens? It'll be the home opener in front of the hometown fans in Queens. And, hopefully they can work some of the magic. They had a day off, so there's no scheduling or anything to make it as an excuse. You got to go out there and play some good baseball, or we're going to bust your freaking skull in WFAN, right? I think that's pretty easy to say. As for any other things that we can bring up, I mean, there wasn't really much. As for that, I just want to, Jimenez with a 1100 OPS. Yeah, that's crazy. Brad saying no Mad Max in the series. Yes, he's on the injured list after 3 innings. I guess it was like last week. Not my problem. Sorry.
Matt just put a good thing. I was just about to say, you have Nunez. He pitched today for AAA Syracuse. Actually threw 2 innings and was really good. So he looks good at spring training to me. So I hope it's not going to be long. I hope that we could see him soon.
I think it all really just has to do with the conditioning, to be honest. Like just getting the reps in. But Evan, Jesus Christ. Anyways, you never know, how they're going to figure this out. I'm hoping and praying that if Nunez does come up here, it's going to be Danny Young that gets sent down, and not one of Kranick or Brazaban, because those two have been very, very key to this team's success so far, or somewhat success so far to start the season. Who knows if that changes? One outing could change the narrative in that way, because of just how the position can be. Danell Nunez, like Matt said in the chat, his fastball was up to 98 today. So there you go. We'll see if he is ready. And we all know who is on borrowed time, especially after the series he just had, that being Danny Young. I don't know if I got my dud in, but it was Vientos. I don't know if I got to that, but I think we talked about it in a good amount of time. I think that we are going to wrap it up here, because I think that at this point, with us doing 2 a week, we can kind of go an hour and a half instead of 2 hours, because there wasn't anything major. Again, it's the start of the season. They're still working out the kinks. There's a lot of games that need to be played. But other than that, Frank, I'll go to you on some final words going into this series. Hopefully we can just put that one in Miami behind them because, again, like we said, the word this entire episode, sloppy. Very, very sloppy.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we should see a little bit more of a sense of urgency. Like we said, a lot of these guys that made the mistakes, they're capable of being better. It's a team that, for the most part, they didn't play like that. So, I mean, if you want to make it far in the season, you can't be doing stuff like that. So I feel like we're going to see it's going to look a little better. I would think so. I would hope so. But they still have to do it. But I'm not too worried yet. Like I said, it was the Marlins. Weird stuff happens. So I'll give it like a little bit more time before I forget. Like I said, still early in the season. So I'm not going to rage just yet.
Yeah. And you guys can see him flip out if that does end up happening on our TikTok, which will be Mets Frankly postgame after every single game during the regular season. For those of you in here, thank you guys so much for watching, listening. Hope you enjoyed the conversation live. For those of you watching or listening on playback, you want to join the conversation live in the future, make sure to subscribe to the Mets Weekly YouTube channel. Turn on post notifications to not miss when we go live. Follow us on X and on TikTok. Like I said, follow us individually, including our third co-host, Andrew, who could not be here today. And finally, let's go Mets. Going into the home opener, let's get into the winning ways and maybe get on a hot streak. Who knows? And guys, we will see you guys next time.